So it looks like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth will both be coming to platforms like Xbox Series X and S, as well as Nintendo's new console, the Switch 2. As well-known leaker by Nate the Hate goes on to confirm in a podcast that both of these games will in fact be coming to these consoles in the very near future. You know, this has been something that has been in the talks for, over a year now, right? To be able to get these games out of exclusivity and into the hands of more consumers. And it looks like now Square Enix is finally making their move in 2025. So let's get right into it. Now, this information comes from Game Rant with Nate the Hate going over possible release dates as early as 2025 and 2026. It says here, quote, Nate the Hate framed the purported Switch 2 ports of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth as part of Square Enix's multi-platform publishing push, which the Japanese gaming giant announced in May 2024. In addition to Nintendo's upcoming console, both games are also on their way to the Xbox Series X and S, the longtime leaker said. Final Fantasy VII Remake is planned to land on Microsoft's current gen consoles in 2025, while Rebirth will follow suit in 2026 as per the same source. Nate the Hate did not specify the game's Switch 2 launch windows, but it's plausible that they will mirror the Xbox release schedule he laid out. While these alleged ports suggest the possibility of the trilogy's third game also going multi-platform, this won't happen on day one as Sony has already secured timed exclusivity rights for all three games. And I have the clip from the podcast itself where Nate the Hate pretty much goes on to say like, yeah, this is absolutely happening and it's happening fairly soon.
I think following the announcement of Final Fantasy 16, we will see Square Enix confirm that Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will be coming to Xbox. Now, my speculation is that this announcement will take place at the Developer Direct. I want to make that part clear, but I can confirm that Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will be coming to Xbox. Final Fantasy VII Remake will be released in 2025. Rebirth will follow in 2026. These games will also be coming to Nintendo Switch 2.
Now he does say here that these games can be announced as early as the Xbox Developer Direct, which takes place on January 23rd. I myself have been asked if I think these rumors are true and that these games are coming to both consoles, both Xbox and Switch 2. The simple answer from me would be absolutely. Like, I don't even think it's a question at this point that both of these games are coming to Xbox and Switch 2. I mean, it just makes sense at this point, right? Now, do I think it's as early as the Xbox Developer Direct? I mean, it's definitely possible and we definitely could, especially getting, like a surprise drop from Final Fantasy 16, which he also did mention in that clip. But it's like Square Enix has been having a really rough couple of years with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth not meeting expectations. I mean, Final Fantasy VII as an IP, their golden goose not meeting expectations, not meeting enough. That is certainly a problem, right? And of course, Final Fantasy 16 also not meeting expectations, despite both games selling well over 3 million copies at this point. They also do mention that the third game in the trilogy will also be a timed exclusive on PlayStation 5, which may seem like a bummer, but Sony has had these rights to exclusivity for all three of these games since the very beginning. That said, with Square Enix's company reconstruction, I think it's very safe to assume that the mainline Final Fantasy games going forward will not be locked solely to PlayStation consoles on day one. I mean, the whole point of this multi-platform plan was so that they can not meet the same problems that they have been for the last couple of years, pushing these games out to more consumers on day one and thus, ideally making more money. The article then goes on to say, quote, when exactly the new versions of Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth may be confirmed is unclear. Nate the Hate speculates that at least one of them might be announced at the 2025 Xbox Developer Direct, which is scheduled to take place on January 23rd. The Switch 2 ports obviously can't be confirmed before the console itself is officially revealed, which Nintendo promised would happen before the end of its fiscal year 2024, which runs until March 31st. While new mainline entries in Square Enix's iconic series have consistently skipped hit the Switch. The Japanese publisher has still extensively supported Nintendo's hybrid console, which has received 16 Final Fantasy titles to date, ranging from Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition HD in September 2018 to the first 6 Final Fantasy games in April 2023. So again, I think it is highly possible that we see both of these games make it to Switch too. I think when you take everything into account when it comes to Square Enix's multi-platform plan, these games not meeting expectations, and the fact that Nintendo Switch 2, I mean, let's face it, is going to be an extremely popular item and a very hyped up console, I think there's just no chance that Square Enix misses this opportunity. Maybe even having Final Fantasy VII Remake be a launch title for the Switch 2. Now, even though it makes sense for Final Fantasy VII Remake to be on the Switch 2, I think everybody's been questioning how exactly is Rebirth going to be able to run even on this new Switch hardware, as I think we all know that it's most likely not going to be on the same level as a PS5 or Xbox Series X. And even on the PS5, this game had a very rough time. Not to even mention if they put Final Fantasy 16 of all games on Switch, which honestly would probably blow up the console. Now obviously there are some alternatives when it comes to this, like Square Enix and Nintendo have come up with a Pocket Edition when it comes to Final Fantasy 15, and I mean, even though that is an alternative, I don't think that anybody wants to play like a chibi, heavily downgraded version of Rebirth, when 9 times out of 10 the original version is always going to be better. Rebirth is way bigger and way more intensive of a game than Remake ever was. So, you know, to me it's just going to be really interesting to see how they come up with an alternative. What sort of caveats will this version of the game have on Switch 2 compared to every other platform? I guess that is where time will tell when the Switch 2 is eventually revealed. So tell me how you guys feel about all of this. How do you feel about all of the recent modern Final Fantasy games coming to more platforms like Xbox Series X and the Switch 2? To me, I think these are less of rumors and honestly something that is bound to happen very soon. Anyways, tell me how you feel about it down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.